Hey real estate nerds, this is Alex Yoder with Pro Tip Tuesday, my favorite day of the week. And today I'm coming at you again to talk about HB24-1098, for cause evictions is the title of the bill. If you haven't already, please go watch my last video that talked about this bill so you can kind of get an idea of the main concerns that we have. But the reason I'm doing this video again about this bill is that we're going to testimony tomorrow in front of the committee. If you're not a member of the Colorado Springs Landlord Forum on Facebook, please join so that you can be in the know and you can see my links so you can sign up for testimony and or a call to action, which is basically just letters that go to, at this point, the House and the Senate is where those letters are going, not the committee. I did a previous call to action to the committee specifically, so this one is to the House and the Senate should this go through committee and be passed through committee. A couple of changes have come to light as far as the bill itself, a couple amendments to the bill that the bill sponsors have put forward. And as you are preparing your 2 or 3 minute testimony for tomorrow, for those of you who have signed up, it'll be important for you to know this so that you can prepare and make sure that your testimony is as hard hitting as it can be and as pertinent as it can be. So I'll start by just saying that if you are giving testimony tomorrow, your testimony should be very specific to actual circumstances that you have dealt with where you non-renewed a tenant who was a nightmare tenant, a problematic tenant, because what this bill, of course, seeks to do is to restrict the reasons that we can non-renew people. Now, there were some additional changes here in an amendment that I mentioned that I'd like to go over very quickly. I'm not going to cover everything, but some things to be aware of as you are preparing your testimony. So first of all, relocation assistance. The section about relocation assistance in the bill has been removed entirely. So the section about relocation assistance, paying for their moving expenses or for several months of rent to cover moving expenses, has been removed. There is also a new change to if the property is going to go up for sale. It was 120-day notice, I believe. Now it's been dropped down to 90 days. So the majority of the notice requirements are now 90. There is also a change for if you're active duty military moving back into your home, where you could give a 45-day notice instead of a 90-day notice. So that's one of the other changes. Again, if you're military, you could give a slightly shorter notice based on these amendments. Another big one here is under kind of a nuanced category. If the tenant is engaging in conduct that is disturbing to others or causing a nuisance that interferes with the quiet enjoyment of the landlord, if the landlord lives in the same property or immediately adjacent to the property, or by reason of negligence has damaged the unit, then there would be some exemptions to the bill. Those are not entirely clear or spelled out based on what I'm seeing in this write-up that I got, but there would be some exemptions. It sounds like if you were basically living there and they were causing your quiet enjoyment to be impacted, or if they were negligently damaging the unit. Let's see here, what else is important? Oh, if the tenant has a history of non-payment and is late more than 2 times in a lease period, the landlord may initiate a no-fault eviction at the end of the lease with a 90-day notice. So they're giving us another out, another reason to non-renew people. If they have a history of being late, then they would be non-renewed. Now, the example that comes to mind for me so clearly is the same example that I gave in my last video. We have had tenants who are just absolute nightmares to deal with. They're cussing us out. They're screaming at us over things that are completely unreasonable. And we would theoretically be stuck renewing that person unless they've been late a few times based on those changes, or unless they were, unless we were living there and they were a nuance to our quiet, or they were a nuisance to our quiet enjoyment, or we're selling the property, or we're personally moving back in, or some of these other very strict reasons that we are allowed to non-renew somebody. So this bill remains extremely problematic because there are so many reasons that you may want to non-renew an awful tenant that are not specifically defined in this bill. So please show up to testimony tomorrow if you are able. You can do remote testimony, you can do in-person testimony. In my opinion, remote is just fine, but showing up with a wave of opposition, even if the bill gets passed in committee, people will be talking about it, and that'll put more pressure on potential amendments, if not getting this bill entirely pulled. So that's kind of where we're at. Hopefully this was helpful for you. We'll see you next week.